This is March. It is finally here. It is a Monday to kick it off on the Boren Blitz on the beat presented by the Waterworks. And we have one more week of winter workouts to go, Zach. One more week until spring ball is here. And I guess we can say that the offseason is basically over.
Unbelievable to think that football is right around the corner. I mean, to think that it's already March, the year 2026 has flown by so far. I can guarantee you those guys through winter workouts, the off season's flown by. Yeah, man, we're strapping on helmets in a week's time, right? Now, I don't believe any shoulder pads, but at least running around in helmets doing that thing, and then get a nice little spring break time, and then you come back from spring break, and it is 4 weeks of all out getting after it, tons of position battles, tons of new faces that we're going to see. Especially when you look at the defense side of football. So, super exciting time for Ohio State.
Is it still exciting? Put yourself back in those shoes, Zach. You have a week to go of winter workouts. Mickey Marotti, Anthony Schlegel pushing these guys to the limit. You know that football chance to run around in the Woody is a week away. Are you worn out of winter workouts? Are these the dog days? Like, what's the last week of these going to be like as you remember it?
These aren't the dog days. The dog days is definitely fall camp, right? You're in there grinding. Well, I take that back. Nowadays, it's not so much the dog days because it's not 5 weeks how it used to be of all out pads every single day, right? This is what I will say. Especially when you're a veteran player, a lot of those guys on the offense side of the football, do they want to get around and run around with the guys? Yes. But they're already doing that during winter workouts, right? They're getting in there on afternoons. They're getting in there on Saturday mornings, even Sundays, and they're getting reps with the guys, whether it be Julian throwing the wide receivers, offense and defense linemen working together, doing all those things. So if you are an Ohio State football player, to be honest, you probably wish there were a couple more weeks left of winter workouts. You probably wish, hey, 2 more weeks of winter workouts, take a little spring break, come back, maybe 2 more weeks of winter workouts. And I actually think we're going to see the evolution of this at some point just because of the way college football is going, that instead of, a 4.5 week spring ball, I think you're going to see more of a 2-week kind of mini camp similar to what NFL teams do, right? Yeah. They have a 15 practice or something like that. Not even that. They have 15 practice optional OTAs, but then like a week long mini camp that they call it, right? And so I think you're going to see college kind of combine those two things and make it almost a 2-week mini camp where, hey, you're getting guys on, or maybe, 2.5 week, there's a little acclimation period. And then you kind of got 2 weeks of pads, a scrimmage in between there, a spring game, and it's much more minimal than what it is. But, so if you're a veteran player, you're putting the pads on, you're going and doing those things. Yeah, you're excited to get on the field. But at the end of the day, you just want to get better. And so what's going to make you better? Yes, reps are, but also getting more time in the weight room is critical for a lot of these guys.
If you're not careful, Zach, with all of these good ideas for the college football calendar, they really will make you the commissioner.
Give me a couple of years. I got a little too much going on right now. But hey, listen, I'm not just having these conversations. I know there are so many other people behind the scenes having these conversations. You have head coaches, you have general managers, you have people pounding the table for a change from a scheduling standpoint. So it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves over the next couple of years.
All right. So as I've established repeatedly, this is March, and the winter offseason phase is enough has happened. It's almost over. I think that we can evaluate it. And I was thinking it was about 2 months ago to the day that you said on this show, everything is going to be fine. I have 100% confidence in Ryan Day, Mark Pantoni, everyone in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center to get this done, because that was at the beginning of January, a time of chaos and panic, and it didn't feel like things were in control for Ohio State. And whatever the plan was difficult for people outside of the Woody to see it. But now everything that has transpired since then, not just with roster acquisition, roster retention, Arthur Smith, Matt Patricia, retained, it feels like everything Ohio State wanted to accomplish, they did accomplish. Now, we can't really grade it, Zach, I don't think, until they play games in September. Or at least that's my stance on it. Like, it's an incomplete grade, but everything that was on the to-do list, they did it. And I think you have to view that now as an unqualified success, at least for me.
You do. You brought up the coaching staff, and the coaching staff is obviously a huge thing. Let's be honest. The offense let this team down the last 2 games of the year. I think everyone can admit to that from that standpoint. You go out and get a guy like Arthur Smith, like you talked about, crucial, right? And that's what everyone's been talking about. What I think is so crucial for this team is they went out and got some veteran guys in the transfer portal. There's not, maybe not the big shiny objects that we've maybe seen in the past or that some other schools are going for. But what Ryan Day and Mark Pantoni did was they were very strategic about the spots that they knew were open, spots that they knew they needed some veteran leadership, and they went out and got those guys. And that's what I'm so excited for is winter workouts, those guys are around. Obviously, they're starting to get acclimated with the team. When you start getting the spring ball and doing some of these things, and now, as you said, we're 2 months later, and we're going to see it a month later, right, in the horseshoe for the spring game, you're going to see these guys really step up, come out of their shell, and show everyone why Ryan Day and Mark Pantoni were so aggressive in going and getting these guys. And to your point, you said you're not really going to see anything show its head come September when you start playing football. Well, everything's going to be okay from that standpoint. And everyone was worried in the transfer portal when everyone's like, hey, all these schools are doing a lot the first week, and Ohio State was kind of sitting back waiting to make their moves. Well, they made their moves, right? And, not only am I excited to see those guys play, but then you see this offense come out again, and you have some leadership like Arthur Smith. Like, Austin, we could sit here and talk for hours upon what Ryan Day and Mark Pantoni did from a organizational standpoint, right, with coaches, even organizational and personnel standpoint with players. And you can go through to the detail of how and why they went after these guys. And it's next level, man. These guys are at the top of the game, and I can't wait for Ohio State fans to sit back and be like, okay, you're right. The world wasn't ending January 1st, January 2nd, right? The sun's going to come up tomorrow, so to speak, type of thing. And this team is going to be locked and loaded again for a great run in 26.
So when you're thinking about that Arthur Smith hire and the chance to get on the field in a week's time and get 15 of these practices, Zach, what do you think he is going to bring to that offensive coordinator position? How different do you think it's really going to look?
I don't think it's going to look much different. What I will know, though, or what I do know, is Arthur Smith's going to bring a personality to this offense, right? And I think last year, nothing against the previous coaches that were here or whatever, it was kind of a Ryan Day offense being called by a non-Ryan Day coach, if that makes sense, right? And it was just calling plays, and, when they were trying to make adjustments, it was a lot of Ryan Day doing that stuff. Arthur Smith is going to bring a personality. The people that I know that know Arthur Smith says he is one of the best dudes there is. He loves to just get in with the guys, kind of like Matt Patricia that we saw last year, right? How many times do we see Matt Patricia hugging his dudes and showing a completely different personality that fans have seen from the past or people have seen from the past in the NFL? That's what I think we're going to get from Arthur Smith. He's a guy who cares deeply about his players. From his time in Tennessee, man, he is going to want to run the football, and he's going to bring an attitude and that personality of no one's going to stop us. This is what we're going to do. And that's what I'm excited about, right? Like, Chip Kelly was great, and obviously we won a national championship from that standpoint, but, Chip Kelly wasn't bringing a huge personality with him. Chip Kelly's a very black and white, X and O's type of person, and so I'm excited for Arthur Smith to wrap his arms around those guys, get around the offense, create some juice that's going on, just like Matt Patricia did last year.
Yeah. Very dry sense of humor on Chip Kelly. I don't know what it's going to be like with Arthur Smith yet, because we haven't got to meet him, haven't had an introductory press conference, but that I'm sure will be coming in spring. when spring does get here. Keep your home ready for any weather with the Waterworks and Hetter Energy Savings Plan. Get priority heating service, members only savings, and continuous comfort all year long. Call today to schedule the Waterworks and Hetter, 614-232-2222. The run game part for me, Zach, is fascinating because that's clearly the strength of Arthur Smith. That's what his teams did at the NFL level, found unique ways to attack. There was some of the heavy personnel usage that Ryan Day had been working towards for the last several years already at Ohio State. But then you're like, well, Bo Jackson's not going to be participating in spring camp. Isaiah West is not going to be participating in spring camp. I don't know what Jacoby Jackson's full health situation is coming off that injury shortened year at Florida. It's like, I know that spring camp is not the be all end all, but it's like if you wanted to work on the run game in March and April, I just wonder how that's going to look because a lot of the key figures aren't going to be available.
Well, I'll tell you who is going to be there. The big uglies up front, man. Those offensive linemen are in spring ball, and they're going to be putting their hands in the ground and coming off the football, right? And, this is probably especially coming from the running back room. I love my running backs dearly, but this might come off as people might sound as crazy. If you have an offensive line who's working in unison, who comes off the football and creates separation from a second level standpoint, you can give the ball to anyone and they should be able to find the hole. Right now, if there's a vision problem, guess what? That's an issue. But with spring ball, they've got video from all three angles, from the side, from behind the offense, from behind the defense. And so when you're a running back, you can really get a lot of really good mental reps by watching those kind of plays unfold, especially from both end zone views, and picture yourself, pushing the hole, jump cut, seeing the way linebackers are flowing and knowing the cutbacks here, just depending on the play. Like there are so many things that we could talk about. And so I don't think the running back position is super important from that standpoint. The biggest thing is if Arthur Smith is bringing in some kind of different schematic run game, right, or different things to do from that standpoint, it's crucial for the offensive line to get those reps.
Do you have a preference is not the right word because the coaches need to make the best decision with the personnel every game, every practice. Do you have a feeling, a vibe for how this unit might look, not by maybe the end of spring, but September, because there's so many moving pieces there with maybe Ian Moore playing tackle, Austin Sareveld or Phillip Daniels maybe moving to guard, because there's only one spot available with Tegra Shabola leaving the program in the transfer portal, but it doesn't have to just be a guard filling that spot. And I wonder how much movement there might be in the spring. If you were in the room projecting it out, what do you think that's going to look like?
It's really tough, to be honest. Obviously you have 4 returning starters. A lot of people have question marks around Phillip Daniels. This is the way I know about Phillip Daniels is the coaches love the tenacity he brings to the game, right? And early on the season, even midway through the season, I don't think anyone was questioning Phillip Daniels and what he was able to do at right tackle. Obviously, he did not finish November strong, did not finish the season strong. And so I think that's why all the question marks are coming around. But then again, Austin, that was his first year being a full-time starter. It's really hard to stay engaged when the season is that long and it's that physically grueling. And especially a guy like Phillip Daniels brings that physicality to the game every single play, right? So that's a maturity thing that the coaches need to work with him on, that he needs to be consistent each and every day. And that's something Ryan Day talks about. Now you look at kind of the other, I would call it the other 3 guys that are really out there. And you brought up Ian Moore, Gabe Van Sickle, and Josh Padilla, right? Like those are the other guys people are pointing to. And how do those kind of, Austin, that's 7 guys, how do those 7 guys form the 5? Right. Here's the hard part. After the Big Ten championship game, Austin, everyone, including myself, would have told you Gabe Van Sickle was the best guy for this offense. The way he played against Indiana, especially in that second half, the way the offense was moving the football. And then he goes up against Miami and has an atrocious first 2 or 3 series, and they have to pull him, right? And then I would tell you, I love Josh Padilla. He's one of my favorite players. I love his low center of gravity. I think he brings a completely different attitude to the run game, all these things, right? But he was injured through that last stretch. But then again, he comes against Miami and plays really well, right? So he's got a ton of confidence from that standpoint. And then you bring up a guy like Ian Moore, who every opportunity he got was outstanding, right? The one start he had last year was off the charts, did so many great things. But then again, it comes into, can he do that consistently? Or is it going to look like Philip Daniels where, hey, listen, he looks great, his first number of games, but then the consistent part and having to be at the top of your game every single play for 60, 70 plays a game, week after week after week, ends up wearing on you. So, Austin, there are so many questions. I don't think I've got a magic ball to see what that looks like. All I know is it's a huge camp for a lot of these guys. I think, obviously, you can pencil in Carson Hinsman. You can pencil in Luke Montgomery. You can pencil in Austin Saraville. Now, what that looks like, whether Austin be left tackle, right guard, who knows? I think those three guys are not, I know. Those three guys for sure are playing, barring an injury. Let's hope that doesn't happen, right? And so what Philip Daniels is able to do, what those other three guys that I mentioned are able to do in spring ball, it will be a big time for that group up front.
Is there one question for you on the defensive side that's front of mind right now?
My only question, I lied. I've got two questions because one is kind of one's just kind of up in the air. But how do you replace a guy like Caden McDonald that was so crucial from this defense, right? And I think especially you look at a Matt Patricia defense, what he was able to do in New England with Vince Wilfork, right? Like all those guys, a big-time nose guard that is very disruptive, takes this defense to the next level. So who fills that role, right? There's obviously, they brought in some dudes on the defensive front that you hope were able to step up and add a lot to that position. So it'll be interesting from that standpoint. But then my other question, which it's a question, but it's more of a what's the future look like, is who's going to be wearing the green dot and who's going to be running that defense? Because I do think that is such a big thing, especially in a Matt Patricia defense where communication is key. And we saw Sonny Styles do that for a number of years. Now there's going to be a new guy wearing the green dot. So who is it? What's that look like? Is that person able to be a leader on the team? That's probably not something so much for spring ball, but something more going into fall camp to make sure I got that person. So Austin, those would probably be the two biggest factors. But I think nose tackle is the bigger question, and that's something we'll find out come spring football.
Well, something tells me we'll have like 15 or 20 more questions to break down next week on the Boren Blitz, because then we'll be 1 day away from the start of spring camp. I can't wait. March is here, fired up to break it down with you. As always, Zach, insight is phenomenal. The analysis, you've lived it, and I appreciate you making the time for me while I'm still in Chicago right now and rearranging your schedule to accommodate
Windy City, man. It's all good. I'm still unpacking a house over here. You're good. I'm just taking it's my water break,
All right. Well, thanks for using that water break to talk with me on Boren Blitz. Is presented by the Waterworks. He, of course, is Zach Boren. I am Austin Ward, and spring ball is almost here, folks. We'll talk to you later.